Welcome to Lessons from the Sensei, Law, Business, and Life.
Hey everyone, welcome into an all-new episode of Lessons from the Sensei, Law, Business, and Life. I am your host, Mike Leon, joined by the aforementioned criminal defense attorney, Denis Quintana. And in the world of criminal defense, what you can say, and almost always will, be used against you. So shut up. I'm sure Denis is going to tell you that in just a second. As he navigates the legal landscape of 2026, it is time for a critical discussion, on the biggest mistakes people make when talking to the police. Denis is going to explain all of it in just a second. Denis, it is good to see you as always. I'm assuming that is the biggest mistake, right? That they talk too much. They never shut up, as the old Run DMC song used to go. But have you ever seen a case where a suspect successfully kept talking and they talked their way out of an arrest and they explained their side? Have you seen that?
So Mike, no, first of all, thanks for the opportunity. It's always great seeing you as well. I'm sorry you're not as good looking as I am, but I appreciate your you're compassionate, you're kind. I like listening to you, man. No, I'm just playing. I say that because I love you, man.
I appreciate that.
So look, here's what happens is I've never seen anybody talk themselves out of it. I've only seen people, dig themselves deeper. Because here's what's happening when you're talking. They're observing you. They're seeing, are you nervous? Are you sweating? Are you looking away from something? Are you looking at somebody else? And they're getting cues on what to do next. They're not trying to be persuaded. They're not sitting on the fence. They're hunting and looking for how to pin you down. And so the less opportunity you give them, the better for you.
Yeah, it's very true. Denis, I want to ask you because it's kind of apropos for things that are happening in the news. And I'm not sure a lot of people in the state of Florida know about this. Florida has a HALO law that kind of requires this buffer around officers. I think it's around 25 feet. And you can kind of explain, but can you kind of not only explain that law, but how the law has kind of changed the way people actually interact with police officers when they're recording potentially them or the process of them getting arrested?
Yeah, man. So we all got phones, right? And they used to be phones. Now they're phones and cameras and portable computers. And so, people will think, I'm just going to record this as if that's some sort of leverage over the cop, right? Like the cop's going to act better because he or she's on film. And sometimes it helps, right? Sometimes if they're going to do something abusive, it's good to have it on record, but it's better if somebody else is recording and you're just listening to what the cop is saying. And the reason for that is, if an officer's doing an investigation, if they have a reasonable suspicion of something, they're allowed to investigate. And you're just not allowed to interfere, right? So you don't want to say, like, if a cop says to you, hey man, come here, I need to talk to you, and you just walk away and keep walking, they can arrest you for resisting without violence. Resisting what? Well, resisting arrest. Well, I didn't know he was going to arrest me. Well, you're resisting the investigation. And so if a cop gives you a lawful command, right? They can't say, Denis, I need you to do backflips, right? That's not a lawful command. But if they say, Denis, I need to see your license, you say no. They're allowed to ask for your license. And if you say no, it usually doesn't get better because you're already manifesting defiance. And their response to defiance is to force you to comply. They're not in the, oh, let me make this easy and kind for you. They're in the, you need to cooperate with me. And you do, right? You need to listen to what they say. And you need to do what they tell you to do, but you don't need to say what they want you to say, right? So, Give me your license. Yes, sir. Get out of the car. Yes, sir. I don't want you to record this. Yes, sir. Right? The more that you get in their space or have somebody else interfere, the likelier that not only you and the other person is going to get arrested, but the likelier that they're going to call for backup because they're going to say, hey, I don't want to be 1 against 2. I want to be 3 against 2, my 3 against your 2. Right. And so it's better to just listen. So in Spanish, we say, oye, mira y calla. Look, listen, and be quiet. Look, listen, and be quiet.
Yep.
Right. So you follow the directions, but don't say yourself, right? Don't panic. Don't be so compliant that you're not thinking. And thinking means I'm only going to answer what they ask, but I'm not going to say anything about what I did. I'm going to ask for a lawyer. I'm going to ask for my right to remain silent. I'm going to do it respectfully.
Right. Yeah. Well, backflips will depend on what time of day you actually catch Denis. So he may or may not be able to do those. But I want to pivot and flip, great transition, to something else that I'm sure a lot of people tell you. I wasn't read my Miranda rights. No, this should be dismissed. They never read me my rights, my right to remain silent. Can you kind of a little bit explain, take us under the hood here of this custodial interrogation, for lack of a better phrase, and the Miranda rights? Does it actually matter how people are?
They matter tremendously. So Miranda rights are implicated whenever you are A, in custody, and B, subjected to an interrogation. So let's take that apart, right? What does custody mean? Custody means that you're not free to leave. So cop stops me on Turnpike, asks me for my license, and then says, hold on, right? Goes back to his car, is running my license. If I take off, right, I am not free to leave. They're going to chase me, and they're going to stop me, and they're going to say I'm leaving the scene, or I'm absconding, fleeing, or attempting to elude. So whenever you're in custody, now a regular stop for speeding, you're not in custody, right? If the detention is for just a short amount of time, they ask for your license, they give you a ticket, and you're on your way, you're not physically in custody. But when you're stopped and they're saying, get out of the car, and is it okay if I search you? You're not free to leave. So A, you're in custody. The second part about that is, all right, once I'm in custody, am I subject to interrogation? And so anytime an officer asks anything that is directed towards a response about any kind of crime, right? Like, hey, where were you coming from? What were you doing? Why are you here? Potentially that could be related to a crime, because they may have gotten a report of a crime in some place and they're trying to test if you were in that place. Or they're doing a DUI investigation and you're like, I came from the club, I came from happy hour. They're going to say, okay, well, that just heightens my suspicion. So you always want to be mindful of A, when you're in custody. Certainly by the time you're in handcuffs, you're in custody, but you're in custody from the moment you're not free to leave. And the second part is, whenever they're asking you anything other than what's your name and can I have your ID, you're being interrogated. You're being observed. They're looking for your speech patterns, they're looking for your mannerisms, they're looking for your conduct as to what are you looking, who are you looking to. And so you need to have Miranda. Miranda is a case. Miranda was a Supreme Court case where they said that, look, we all have the right to not have to incriminate ourselves. We have a right against self-incrimination. So you see it on TV. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. If the cops don't tell you that, and you just start with diarrhea of the mouth, you just start talking and talking and talking, not only are they using that, but potentially we can get it all excluded. Okay? Excluded is the remedy when they do something that is unconstitutional and we call foul. So we say, hey, man, you didn't read my Miranda rights. I was in custody. You interrogated me. Whatever I said can't be used. So Miranda rights are important, but it's actually a benefit when the cops don't read your Miranda rights, right? It's a benefit because it's a tool we can use. The trick is you got to be sharp enough to let them make their mistakes. Right? Because what do you want to do? Hey, man, you got to read me Miranda, right? No, don't do their job for them. Just say respectfully, I don't have anything to say. I'd like to remain silent. I'd like not to say anything until I have an attorney. And don't let them provoke you.
Denis, another thing that I would love for you to explain is Florida is a stand your ground state. I'm not sure how many people know that. And talking to the police could actually disqualify you from certain immunity. Can you kind of explain a little bit more about that?
Well, I mean, stand your ground really is an issue of when you feel that you are otherwise threatened. And I don't mean threatened like, hey, man, I'm going to beat your ass. But threatened like there's something is a credible threat of imminent bodily harm, of some kind of physical danger. Usually a cop doesn't say, I'm going to beat your ass, right? So usually if you're talking about stand your ground, you're either talking about stand your ground with some other individual. some other individual that has provoked you or put you in reasonable fear of imminent harm. And in general, where you can, you should try to retreat, because you just don't know what you're going up against, right? You certainly weren't looking for a problem, and somebody's now presenting one, and you don't got to take the bait. You might think, oh, this guy made a comment about my girlfriend and I'm pissed, right? You don't know this guy's got a gun, right? You don't have a gun. You're just like, hey, what'd you say to my girl? And they pull out a gun, right? So it's better to just try to retreat, try to, de-escalate. But, if you're alone and, 2 guys, 3 guys, whatever, hey man, give me your wallet, right? You have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to stand your ground. And so standing your ground means, A, I'm not going to flee and run, let you tackle me. And B, I'm not going to let you beat the shit out of me. I'm not going to let you take advantage of me. If you come at me, I'm coming back. So that's the idea. Now, when you talk about stand your ground with cops, and talking, you might waive that. And so the talking is the de-escalation. The idea that you're talking or cooperating, it means that you're not standing your ground. It's you're trying to explain, to persuade, to convince, but you're not under immediate attack, right? It's not imminent. And so instead of when you're explaining, you're losing. You shouldn't be explaining. You should just say, I'm sorry. I don't have anything to say. I don't want to say anything until I have an attorney. That's it. And you shouldn't be physically having to, man up and because that usually doesn't end well, right? Cops and other people have stuff that you don't have. A, bad intentions. B, superior weapons, and sometimes much better training. And so you don't need to get your ass beaten. That only makes things worse.
Denis, let me ask you, because we talked about cell phones earlier and recording police officers, but let's say a cop asks to see the phone or for the passcode. What are, in 2026, what are the long-term consequences of voluntarily, giving that up without a warrant?
And anytime you voluntarily give anything up, you're opening yourself. You're allowing them to inspect, to examine, to search. It's basically just a witch hunt. You have a right, and you have a right to a reasonable expectation of privacy in your thoughts, right? In your images, in your discussions, your recordings, right? Your papers and effects. And so if they ask, hey, can I see your phone? I'm sorry, you cannot, right? You don't consent to anybody going in your car, going in your house, going in your purse, going in your phone. Why? Because all of those are places where you have an expectation of privacy. And so if a stranger comes up to you and says, hey man, can I see your phone? No, right? Why would you let a cop do more than you would let a stranger, right? Most people have the theory, if I be nice to the cop, they're going to let me go, right? The cop is there trying to investigate and is taking advantage of that unequal power position, thinking that if you cooperate, letting you think that if you cooperate with them, they're going to be nice to you, but they're not, right? You can cooperate with them just by saying, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to show you. Unless and until you have a warrant, I don't have anything to say, and you can't go in my phone.
Well, Denis, the flip side is also that now, at least in the state of Florida, almost every officer is wearing body cameras. So these off-the-record conversations, they don't really exist. How would you tell the general public, or what would you want them to know about, hey, you're constantly being recorded. These statements, you may have to defend some of these statements that you made at the scene because you're being recorded.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? The recording helps when the cop says, oh, the person was combative, they were unsteady on their feet, they were not cooperating, they resisted, and I had to use pepper spray, right? They write this in their report, but then when you look at the video and you're like, it's not there, man, So for example, I had a client that was arrested for DUI. And, the officer said, well, she was unsteady on her feet. She didn't do well on the field sobriety exercises. And so I ultimately arrested her. Well, turns out the girl was a gymnast, and the girl did backflips. She goes, hey, watch this. She literally did backflips, right? They didn't put that in the report. But, the idea of if you're impaired, right, from alcohol or drugs, to the extent that you're unsteady and you don't have good balance, you're not going to be able to do backflips, right? I'm not impaired. I can't do a backflip, right? And so in that case, the recording helps, because the cop says one thing, but you can see something else. What you were alluding to is, hey, the cop comes at me and I'm like, hey, you son of a whatever, what's your badge number? Don't you know who I am? I'm going to go after you, right? That never looks good. So you want to take advantage of the recording, but because you're being recorded, you want to be on your best behavior, right? You want to say yes, sir, no, sir, respectfully, or yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, respectfully. I don't want to say anything. No, I don't want to do that. I understand if you need to take me in, offer your hands, let them cuff you. But you want to kill them with kindness while they're trying to humiliate you. Right. And the hard part is that you're not used to getting arrested, right? You're not a delinquent. You're not a criminal. You're nervous. And, you're stopped on the side of the road, or they've come to your house. You don't want your neighbors to know. And you're like, yeah, come in. Yeah, I'll talk to you. Of course. No, I've got nothing to hide. Check my car. No, you have nothing to hide, but they have no reason to search either. So you just go, how can I help? I'm sorry, I can't do that. But do what you got to do, right? But you're not giving them evidence. Right. And your demeanor, your good conduct, your response in good faith is something that I can use, by showing, A, you're cooperative, B, you're alert, you're intelligent, and C, maybe the officer's unreasonable. Because the officer's going to get pissed. I just had a recent case, where my client was saying, why are you doing this? And the officer just went off. Like, hey, man, I'm the cop. You need to listen and do what I say, right? And he goes into this drill sergeant mode. Turns out this cop, I cross-examined him. He used to be military police for 20 years, right? Military police and regular police are completely different. In the military, it's yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Doesn't matter, right? Give me jumping jacks. Yes, sir, right? But regular police, hey, give me jumping jacks. I'm sorry. Why? I'm sorry. I don't want to do that, right? And you have a right not to do it. But when you say no to the military, they're like, get on the ground, do it now. Bah, 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 bah. Well, that's what he was doing to this guy, right? That'll look great. I play that in front of a judge and a jury, and they're like, this guy's a hothead. He's the problem. Right. And so that's why you need to, be conscious. So it's hard. And so that's why we do these shows, right, Mike? The reason you asked me, hey, why do we do this? What should we do? Is because now you're alert, you're intelligent, you're sober, you're listening. So you need to think, right? If me or my kids or my neighbor or my spouse, if they have any kind of interaction with the police, be very, very mindful. Think about it this way. You drive, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I drive, and sometimes I drive a little bit faster than the little numbers on the side of the road that say this is a speed limit. But whenever I'm driving, if I see a cop, whether I'm below those numbers or above those numbers, I immediately slow down just because I see a cop, right? So if I'm that, cautious about speeding, which is a non-criminal effect, right? Non-criminal offense. If I'm that cautious when I see cops, when I see them in uniform, when I see them in the street, when they actually pull me over, I need to be more cautious to the point of, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, how can I help you, ma'am? No, I'm sorry, I can't do that, ma'am. No, you cannot search that. Well, don't you have anything to hide? No, I don't have anything to hide, but I don't have anything to say either.
Right.
And so that's the trigger, and you need to think about that now when it hasn't happened. It's like the hurricane warnings. Storm's coming. Go get water. Go get batteries. Okay, I got water and batteries. Right? Exactly. I'm trying to give you water and batteries.
That is landing the plane right there. Denis is giving you the water and batteries. Stop talking for the folks, but do it respectfully. Denis, I thank you for the time, the insights. It's the reason why you're the sensei. We appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate always chatting with you as well.
That concludes today's episode of Lessons from the Sensei, Law, Business, and Life. So look, if you or a loved one is facing a legal challenge, you need a criminal defense attorney, I know somebody, and here's his phone number, 407-694-5403. Connect with Denis and the team. Do me a favor before you go. Hit like, hit subscribe, leave a review and comment, or share the episode with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Mike Leon. See everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.